Hello and welcome back to the SuperCoach Experience podcast. I'm your host, Brendan Savage, the coach of the Savage Turbos. Yes, you were introduced by a new intro created by one of Mikey's good friends at Friendly Fire Dubstep. Go over to his Instagram page if you are keen on some sort of beats, or he does a lot of good rap beats, Iggy. But I'll introduce our first guest, Mikey, the coach of Trip Ducker Mafia. Iggy, good at his dubstep and his rap beats, isn't he?
Yeah, he's been doing it for quite a while. Keen to talk some NRL as we always are. But he's Friendly Fire. He doesn't mainly do much dubstep these days, but he does a bit of rap beats and all that kind of stuff. So he's doing a lot of movements with his brothers and that. So go check it out. Thanks to him for giving us a hand with that. So I know last year people didn't like it when we changed the intro, but hey guys, give it a go.
Yeah, people don't like change, especially the older people, and we have a lot of older people listening to the podcast, and I'm one of the older people, to be honest, and I don't like change, and we're going to have to deal with change because there's a lot of change, especially in SuperCoach this year. Speaking of change, I'm joined by one of our other hosts, Jake McGivern, the coach of Kiss My Bee Hines. Change in his name?
I've got a team name now. Gone with that one.
What, could you repeat your name, please, Jake? Kiss my...
Using Nico Hines.
Oh, it's the Hines
Always
reference.
a Sharks player.
I like it.
Very good. And we are also... Very good. We've got team lists Tuesday in 1 month from tomorrow, and the trials will be played on KO and Foxtel, which is... I mean, how good is that to pretty much get your SuperCoach side prepped for the season?
When do the trials start?
Come on, mate. I haven't introduced you, so you're not allowed to talk.
Is that how it works?
That is how it works.
Well, introduce me. I'm still here. Like, it's not like I'm
And I'm introduced by the reigning champ, Tim. He won something last year.
Yay. Sound effect. Do that clap sound effect you've got.
it's
Yay. Yeah, you're terrible with your sound effects, man.
I don't have it ready because I don't like using it anymore.
We don't like him using it.
What have you got for us on the trials? When do they
I
start?
think they're starting like 2 or 3 weeks. So on Foxtel and KO.
All-Stars and Maori All-Stars games this weekend, so that's something.
Oh, that's this
Bit
weekend.
of taste of footy. Bit of taste of footy. So
very
we get
good.
to see a few SuperCoach relevant plays in action. So keen to get a bit of footy back this weekend.
Joshy Curran will be
I'll
at
be
it.
watching him very closely.
So was Shaquille Mitchell? Or, what's his name?
No, that's right. Pretty
Yeah.
sure it's Shaquille.
Is he actually getting a run,
Yeah,
is
because
he?
Jack Bird pulled out, so he's coming off the bench, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, well, I've read a little bit about it, but I thought that was more him getting a go
In
at...
the squad,
The Bunnies.
Nah.
In the Bunnies, not
The
the
All-Stars.
Indigenous team.
Indigenous, yeah.
Oh, good on him. That's great.
Yeah, anyway, pretty rocky start to the podcast, but let's move on. So today we're going to go on with the fullbacks. I know we've skipped one. The centre wings is going to be a big one, but our time is limited today, and we didn't put out a podcast last week, so we've got to use the time we can and use it well. Wisely. That's exactly the word I was looking for. So fullbacks today, it's probably not going to be much of a discussion because I feel like there are a few combos you can make. You don't really want to get tricky with it, but let's start with it. Firstly, our top sport multi, Sharks, Manly and Penrith, all to finish in the top 6 and Newcastle to finish in the bottom 8. That's gone down to $7.50. Any of you guys jumped on it yet?
I haven't jumped on it yet, but yeah, I'm kind of keen. I'm starting to get a bit worried. The only thing I'm worried about with that one is the Sharks. I do think they'll do well, but I think that is a leg that you're fouled on. Mainly, I think they'll make the 8, but there could be a chance where they get the 7 for 8 position. That's
7th, I can see him getting 7th.
Yeah, that's the only shaky
and it'll
part.
Really sting.
Yeah, like they've got a great side, but like it's just like you've got the great side now. No, let's see them perform under the new coach. That's all. It's the only thing I'm shaky about, but that's why we're getting a bit of better odds with that in there. I understand that, but yeah, I probably will jump on
for $7.50.
If
It's good. It's a good, nice bet to be on for the season.
That's another thing that could cost that one if a certain hamstring gives way.
I did get a
That's
comment
true.
on one of the posts saying we are a hamstring away from losing that, and I 100% agree. I think I brought it up on one episode that I was worried. A lot of people kind of ruled it out, but Manly, they're awful without Tom. I feel like they can do a job without him, but that they won't make the top 6 without him. But I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic he'll stay fit. And I guess we're talking about the fullbacks. Use the code SCExperience when signing up. Over 18, gamble responsibly. We do have another sponsor that I've got to introduce today, but I haven't read anything into it, so I'll add that in later.
Yeah, sounds good.
Pretty interesting sponsor too. Pretty common one.
Sponsor's a sponsor, so we'll shout out to him.
Hey, we love sponsors.
Anyway, let's move on. Fullbacks. I'll start with you, Jake.
We haven't even introduced the sponsor yet. We're going, I know this sponsor.
No. I'll add that in later.
That sponsor before we even introduce them.
I'll add that in later. But Jake, you're always the tiebreaker to do it, so we'll lead you off. What's your fullback pairing and what's your thought process behind it?
Well, I think it's the most common fullback pairing, Tedesco and Pappenhausen. I guess Tom Trbojevic has just priced himself out of a lot of teams, and the fact that you can get Pappenhausen and Tedesco who can equally match Tommy on a good day, they're the same price as Tommy and a cheapie. So I think that's why those two. I think you need kind of two gun fullbacks because they are the highest scoring, most consistent scoring players, especially those two. So I can see why those are the most heavily owned.
Agree. Tim, what are you going with at the moment? Have you made a side yet?
Well, I've got all but one player locked in. That's what I sort of kind of did as it was getting a bit closer. Just have like 99% of the team done. But yeah, what I've got going at the moment is the same combo as Jake. Is Pappy is my main starting fullback, who I'd probably lean to captain probably more so than Tedesco, be based on matchup, I guess. But then Tedesco as my second fullback. I think rotating them between captains on matchup will be fine, and we'll be able to match Tommy. I've been thinking about driving around and stuff when I get thoughts about like how you couldn't have won SuperCoach last year if you didn't have Tommy Turbo, but it's a different story. He started at 500k when we picked him up last year, or 550, 590 maybe at max. And now we're paying 1.2 something mil. So yeah, it's a bit outrageous. I do feel a lot more comfortable with the Pappenhausen Tedesco combo rather than a cheapie and a turbo. I feel like like I've said before, I feel like it's just really putting all your eggs in one basket. But it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be awkward not having Tom and watching Manly play each week. But I guess we're just going to have to sit there and hope he comes back in form a little bit. And I think we've got a lot to see from Pappy this year, and especially also Teddy as well, with a more improved Roosters side, full strength. I think he'll be able to just play his best football rather than having to try play all over the place and fit in, do other people's roles. So I expect big things from both Pappy and Teddy.
Mikey, do you think Tom will be more highly owned had his draw been more friendly to start the season?
I don't think it's the draw that is scaring people off. It's just what it does to your team. You try and put him in and you see what impact it can have. Like having him, just one player, compared to having Tedesco and Pappenhausen, that costs you $200,000 more for two players. So you're going to have to get, and you know what it is. If you're going to have Tom, you're going to have to partner him with someone else. You need two, because two is better than one. Like Tom, can bang out these big scores, but say a week where Tom might go 160, 170 plus. You could also see Tedesco and Pappenhausen both go on 150 in the same week, making it more viable to go that option. It's tough. Like I can't, talk anyone out of getting him, but mainly just, put him in your side and then take him out of your side, get those other two in there and have a look at how your side looks. It's the same argument that we were having with Cleary. Like, it's about having the balance of all these right plays with the ceilings, but at the same time, trying to find value and spread that evenly. You've got to get each position right. And if you're spending that much in the fullback position, it's just, I believe you won't be able to get the rest of your team right. Like, if he absolutely starts on a banger, then yeah. But as you said, Savs, the defects of that too is they play the Panthers and then the Roosters. That's a very tough start. That first game is at Penrith. Could be with or without Cleary, but I think even if he's without Cleary, I think that'll still be a very competitive game of footy, especially at the foot of the mountains. They're very good there. They don't lose many games there. So it's a tough one. Like these boys, I've gone the same. I don't see myself starting with anyone else bar Tedesco and Pappenhausen. Tedesco's underpriced in my opinion. I thought he was pretty average at some parts last year, and look at his price, and he still managed to average 86.7. Like that's crazy for him without Luke Keary. He can go to another level, and I think he's a player that can definitely be worth $1 million. So I'm going to take him for sure. The Roosters draw gets a bit friendly. They start a little tough, but it's not the easiest draw. But yeah, as I said, I think he'll go to new levels, and Pappenhausen with goals is gold. Are there pods you can look at in the fullbacks? 100%. We've seen everyone talk about Guffo. I think you potentially could if you want to risk it to shed a bit of value. I do think the Knights will go awful this year, but I'm actually on the side of the fence where I don't mind a Kalen Ponga pick. Like I wouldn't do it, but I'm not going to tell anyone not to because it's going to be that kind of thing.
I would.
Look, it's going to be that kind of thing where I think he can step up to the occasion if he can battle out his injuries, and I think he will steal a lot of the points that the Knights score if they score any. I think he'll surprise a lot of people. Like, yeah, would you have him over those other two we mentioned? No, probably not. But I don't think he's going to be as bad as a lot of people think he will. But that's just my thoughts.
I don't think he's going to be bad. I just think that in that position, it's such a key position. You've got to kind of get that right. And I think if you don't have Turbo as one of your fullbacks, then you kind of got to get the other two. Like, and I think it's just pretty at those prices. Like you said that Teddy's underpriced. I think
they both are.
Is massively underpriced. Like so, yeah. I think they're great options. And then I think not having them, who I think will be, the top three fullbacks. I think picking anyone else is kind of you're selling yourself short. Big time because it's such a high scoring position, and I think Teddy and Pappy will put it out consistently. Where I don't think that necessarily Ponga would put it out consistently, or some of the others like Reece Walsh was probably going to be exciting to watch this year, and I think he might have some really high scoring games. But just based on average and consistency, I love Pappenhausen with kicking and Teddy in a Roosters side with Keary back. That just
it's going to all be all about rotating like Sabs did last year. His biggest thing was using trades to keep rotating those fullbacks, and I think yet again that strategy will come into play this year, especially with your 5 boosts. But back over to you, Sabs. What's your fullbacks looking like?
Well, at the moment it's Tedesco and Pappenhausen, the same as everyone else, but last year I did use a rotating policy where I would rotate people based on draw, so arguably Gutherson could be up there as one of the best ones because Parramatta have a decent draw to start off, and if you are happy doing a rotation policy with your fullbacks, then maybe it's better off not looking at what the player is, but who the player has, because we know the fullbacks, what they're all capable of, but I guess draw-based, Gutherson probably has one of the better draws coming up. Yeah. But I think Tedesco with a good Roosters side, if they've got a tougher draw, it doesn't really matter as much compared to the lower tier sides. So that's probably why you just lock in Teddy and Pappy straight away.
Especially because they'll be like each week you could almost captain both of those guys every week. Like they'll be heavily relied on by your team to captain too. And I guess a lot of those other fullbacks, like I wouldn't be comfortable captaining them. It'd probably be your top 3 fullbacks that I'd be captaining every week. And I guess it's a good thing maybe that Latrell Mitchell isn't starting round 1 because I think he also could really push a case because no matter he's pretty bad at getting suspended, but when he's on the field, he's I think he can keep going to another level, especially if he just keeps his fitness up. So here's another one that you'd look to in the year to get a bit of a pod. But although I think the start, I don't think you want to be too different at the start, but I definitely see the fullback position opening up later in the year, especially around the origin period. But most of those guys are all going to get snatched up. Like this might be a bit less of a appealing podcast because the fullbacks are pretty straightforward, but in the same time, it's still worth talking about it, especially for other people playing draft as well. And if you can't get those top 3, there are other good options out there.
I saw an article today by Adam Darusi on the SC Playbook, and he was pretty much comparing Tim's team to his team and everyone else's team at certain parts of the year. And it pretty much got to the point where at the end of the season, fullbacks weren't a differential between teams. So it'll just be who you choose as captain, really, which is going to be the differential. So I feel like it's not a place to stay cute. It's just a place to make sure you pick the right one.
Hey, can I do an early bold prediction, like in the show? I know we're not after bold predictions, but I just got one come to me. I've got a real good feeling about the Roosters. I've got a bigger feeling about them in 2023, but I've got a good feeling about them this year as well. And I know people are saying that their start maybe ain't that great or whatever. I don't think that the Roosters will lose a game. Well, they will win every game by at least 10 points up until round 9. So Roosters by 10, round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's what I'm calling. So that's just a bold prediction. You can shake your head at it. I'm allowed to make a bold prediction. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be bang on too. I think they're going to smoke. I think they'll smoke. I think they'll just punish Manly.
Yeah, they have.
It's going to be like, this is my analogy. Last year, they were swinging 4 bats. They were swinging 4 bats all year. And now they're just coming out and they're swinging the 1 bat and it's going to go bang. And they're just going to smack teams. I reckon they're going to absolutely smack them. Sabs, you're right.
And look, I even agree with you there, Timmy. As much as it pains me to sort of say it, because a couple of my mates are Rooster supporters and they love getting into me. But yeah, all the way up until, I think, I'm looking at it now. So round 10 they play Para and then Penrith.
So I reckon they're the 2 games. Maybe Para they might fall a little short of not being the 10 points. Maybe that could be close.
I mean,
Para are pretty good defensively.
I mean, Manly and South are the only games in round 2 and 3, but the Roosters like to start off hot, so I mean they could easily do that. But apart from that, they have a very, very weak draw, and not having someone like Tedesco, which you're not really going to be flipping fullbacks sort of around the start because you want to be getting your cheapies and getting your players that are making money early. You don't want to be playing with your fullbacks. So having Teddy all the way up through to at least round 10 or 11, where you might be able to easily make the gap to Turbo or Latrell Mitchell or whoever's back there. But yeah, I think Teddy's definitely one that we want, because against some of the lower sides, there's definitely teams that you can torch, especially round 1 against Knights, who we all predict to have an.
I just feel that the Roosters last year, every round, basically went to war. You know, they were in the trenches. Every player was sort of like, I've got your back, I've got your back. Let's just go out here and, somehow make this work. And because they were short all over the place, and they just made it work, and they were still competitive. They were like one of the better sides. So now that they've got nearly everyone back, they look strong as. I just feel that football will feel so easy to them that it'll just, and that'll translate to being able to defend easier, just knowing that you can trust the guy on that side and that side a little bit more maybe than what you could last year, because there were people in different positions and someone in the centres that shouldn't be in the centres and stuff like that. So, I've got a good feeling about him. Manly's going to be the tough one, obviously, to do that. Round 2, I think it is. But I think that they can beat them by 10 points or 12 points, something like that. And some of the other games, I think, will be by 10 plus more. But, yeah. What's your thoughts on it, Mikey? You like the Roosters?
30 plus. Yeah, I've been in my top. I've been in the top 2.
Yeah, I do it. At this current state, I've only got 1 in my side, and it's just going to be grabbing him at the right time. Actually, sorry, I've got 2 in my side, which mostly everyone would with Suwali and Tedesco. But yeah, I think the same thing. I think they'll do 4. What the Storm kind of did most of last year. Yeah, 4, nice. Yeah, and I don't have Crichton at the moment. I've got Fafita instead. But yeah, I'm going to constantly look at them, and there'll be guys I'll be looking at targeting. But I'll monitor that over the first 3. I'm just trying to go for the most well-balanced side that I can see. Savs has had to jump off the line. I've also got work shortly, so I'll be off in 5 to about 7 minutes. So then we're going to leave it to Jake and Tim just to hammer through the rest of the fullback options. It'll be a bit of a shorter episode today, but let's keep pumping through while I'm still on the line. So, yeah, look, it's pretty vanilla. if enough cheapies fell around 175,000, I'm definitely all for trying to make a team where you start with Tom. But I think if you were to do that, I'd want to make a balanced team around Tom and one of Tedesco Pappenhausen, which is very hard to do. But I think if you can find the key to doing that and have 25 players, then go for it. And by 25 players, I include Harry Grant or Brendan Piakura from the Broncos. I count that. If they're suspended for round 1 and they'll come back, then I count that as still a 25. Like, I know a lot of people like Tim and myself will probably start with a player suspended if it means having someone like Harry Grant. But yeah, Tim, you wanted to inject into that one?
Yeah, I think I was going to say something.
Like you already do.
I think you probably already answered it in continuing to speak, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm bad for that. But yeah, with Tom, that's the key. But I just don't see it happening. I think we might. The only chance I'm really seeing at this point is we might get William Keys, probably one of the ones in line. But don't forget, we haven't gone on to these Indigenous games. None of the trials have been played. Injuries always happen. So I'm not going to pray for injuries. I don't want to do that to any of the footy players. But that's still got to come into it. It happens every year, so that's also going to have a lot of consequences. But there are a lot of 200 to 300,000 guys, and that's why I think you can fit a lot of these guns in. It's just we haven't had a year where someone like Tom and Cleary, they're so well overpriced. Like, not overpriced, but they really do damage on your team with your salary cap. So moving on, we've kind of addressed Latrell Mitchell. I really like him, but I don't think you'd be able to start with him. We did address Nico Hines in the halfback. Do we really need to touch on him?
You couldn't have him in. You couldn't have him in the fullback spot.
I'm not saying that he won't be viable at one point.
In your fullback spot, you're wasting a fullback spot, especially because he's not playing fullback. So yeah, you can't do that. Yeah. That's a no-no if anyone's got that in their side.
Yeah. If you didn't have Cleary and you really wanted to take the punt, I could see him as because I kind of only looking at really Cleary, Hughes or Cherry Evans. But if you really had some balls, you could go Hines. It's just too risky. A lot of these Sharks plays, even McInnes. I'm someone that won't go near him yet. Fanuka, none of them. I want to watch. I want to wait and see. I currently have one Sharks player in my side, but I missed that with that episode. I'll keep that behind closed doors for now. But I'm really keen to wait and see on him. I guess if you were going to take a punt on a fullback at the Sharks, I think that we have a lot to see from William Kennedy. If we think the Sharks, look, I'm not saying to go with him, but I think he's a really good draft pickup, and he's someone that should stay on the radar over the Origin period. Just watch him. I personally think he'll perform. I don't think he'll perform as good as those top category fullbacks, and that's what we're talking about here. But William Kennedy managed to average 64.8, and he's just getting better and better. And if the Sharks are going to go as well as we all think they are, he's going to be a key part of that. If the half settle and the spine really settles, I think he's going to really benefit off that. And I think he's one of those fullbacks that can have a very high ceiling. I think he'll have games.
He does have that, yeah. I just don't think it'll be as consistent as the other boys in that position. But yeah, there was definitely times last year watching him that I know that some of the guys in the top 10 or maybe one guy had him, and some other people, a bit further down. And it was a bit of a nervous watch some games because he just sort of set up a few tries or ran a good line and sort of got on the back of a try himself. And there's definitely a lot of upside in him. I just when there's Teddy and Pappy available, I really think, and Turbo and probably some other options ahead of, probably Will Kennedy even still. But I do think that he will come in handy possibly over the bye periods and slipping him in as a cover like how Gutho was a good cover for over the bye period last year.
Yeah, he's at 568k, but are you interested at all? Jake, I know I'm not saying interested, but how do you think he's going to perform as a Sharks fan this year?
Well, I mean, we predict the Sharks will improve, and with that, you're probably going to score more points, which means your fullback's going to be more involved in attack. So, I mean, yeah, definitely he's got the potential to score more in terms of tries, try assists, line breaks, if we're attacking a lot better, which I think we will. But, yeah, I mean, comparing him to the top, we'll call him the top three, Latrell could easily be in there, but he's suspended for the first 2 rounds. He's just slightly off, and he's going to be a player that you'll bring in depending on matchup, Origin, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, apart from the top 3, I don't think many people are going to be touching other fullbacks, which means it's a perfect opportunity to pot it up, go with someone different in fullback, and potentially, start.
I just think it's
early.
super risky.
Gutherson, if he starts,
I think you'll end up wanting
so
to
much
change
risky.
it out. Yeah, it is risky,
It's
and I think
super
that
risky.
the way you actually set yourself apart at the start is not by having to do something weird like that. I think it's just getting like maybe the right second rower that everyone else is not getting. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's yeah, exactly.
Like last year was Barnett at the start.
And
Those
then we
who
all
had him
pretty
for
much
those
jumped
nice
on
big
him, and then
scores in the
he
first
gave
two
us
rounds, I
nightmares
gather.
with his interchange problems with that Knights team. But
Good on AOB.
yeah, I would
But yeah,
discourage.
they're the
I
things you're
mean,
looking at.
I don't say it's you couldn't have success in not going with one of those big three, but I really think it's really risky, and I think it's not. You don't want to start bad. You know what I mean? You want to start quite well, and I think Jake didn't start with Teddy last year, and it really cost him and really hurt you. You know what I mean? And then trying to get him in, and then when you do get him in, he's not performing for you anyway. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's kind of like you just got to get him start with him. I think whether you're going to go with Turbo or whether you're going to go with Pappy, and I think that's the only two options.
Yeah. I know it makes a really vanilla podcast, but we do still want to cover the fullbacks, and I guess that makes it a good thing for a short one. Like, I'm not going to speak about any of these guys that are duels, because I am really keen on. I haven't got it at the moment, but I have been looking a lot at, trying to plug in as many fullbacks, or at least of your one high-end centre wing, plugging in a guy that's playing fullback but available at centre wing. I think if you can, this year, we have a lot of those options out there. But as I said, the key to the start this year, like most years, but especially with all these high-priced players, will be a balanced side. And that's what I'm trying to do. You want to have 25 players. You want to have a balanced side. And the main thing is COVID's going to be even bigger this year. Like, it's going to have such a bigger change with this, Omicron variant. And we don't know what other variants are going to be out there. But just look at how it's impacted all the other sports, especially from playing Big Bash. It was huge. And games are getting postponed, this and that was happening. We don't know what it's going to be like over the rugby league season. The rugby league season goes over 25-ish weeks, you know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see how all that works, but there's going to be massive ramifications for SuperCoach. There always is. So it's about having the right balance. Like, if you wanted to be really ballsy, there's people like Dylan Edwards at $490K that you could kind of look at for like a second. You got Reece Walsh, who could go better, but then there was reports today that he's getting homesick and wants to go back to Queensland, and he plays for the Warriors and he hasn't even gone to New Zealand yet, so he's only getting homesick from being interstate, so that doesn't bode well for him and his performance. So yeah, realistically, I think we can kind of sum it up in saying that, if you don't have two of those five, I think you need two of those five. Realistically, all four of us are in the same boat. I'm all for starting with for Tom, if you can have a balanced side, but I haven't cracked the code to that yet. And at this stage, I'm not interested because of the price points the other two are in. So yeah, it's really hard to go apart from those two. But as injuries come through and all those rumours with Tedesco, boys, we'll see what comes to light over the next month. But
I can definitely
they're not
see
enough to scare me away from him.
And I guess
I can see some other players,
Sorry,
performing well, and having, some outstanding matches, but not as consistent as the others. Like, I think Tessie New might go quite well this year. He looked a little bit promising towards the back end of last year, and in a stronger side might find some, big scores, but not to the effect of the guys that are sort of relevant.
Yeah, see, I'm worried about anyone like that from the Broncos who keeps, like, switching and changing around to find a bit of form. Although I don't mind the Broncos side this year. I think they'll be a lot better. But yeah, we'll touch more on them in the centre wing. But yeah, I'm keen on... look, I've got my one in, but I've been looking at Tyrell Sloan, and you could also look at the Hammer. The Hammer mainly because I think the Cowboys are going to go very poorly. They'll be a bottom four side, which kind of steers me off him. But 418K, and then you look at someone like Tyrell Sloan, that the Dragon side I'm not too hot on, but they could do something. I think they'll come up with a lot of surprise wins. They'll win a lot of games that you don't think they'll win, and they might not be as bad as everyone thinks. Top 8 side, I think they'll be scraping by. But yeah, I definitely see that there'll be a lot of players from there that will have SuperCoach relevance. And Tyrell Sloan showed a lot of touches of brilliance, and technically on his average is at a discount. So, but as Tim said earlier in the podcast, you do not take any of these guys in your fullback position. It's absolute suicide. But I'm all for fitting in as many fullbacks as you can in your side. It's like what we used to do in the 5'8", and you sort of fullback in there when Ponga was available at 5'8". It was brilliant. You can have 3 fullbacks, and if you didn't have those 3 fullbacks, you were behind. So it's all. But yeah, realistically, I think we can sum up the podcast there. Jake, anything you'd like to add?
I guess just before we finish up, you mentioned the news about Tedesco, just in case anyone wasn't aware. He had stem cell surgery in the off season on his meniscus and all the ligaments, other ligaments around there. So, I mean, he'll be right for round 1. They've already said that he's been back in.
Where's his
the last
meniscus?
couple of weeks, I think. So,
where's the meniscus? Where's the meniscus? Okay, very good.
In the knee. Yep.
Which he needs that for stepping.
It's the same surgery he had 4 years ago.
So
when he was at the Tigers before he came to the Roosters.
But as a lot of people have the Whisper and all that have pointed out, he doesn't normally completing all these trial games and all that. Yeah. Like he's kind of always, this is how he is normally every time. I think they're just a bit cautious on him and he comes out firing. Yeah. Yeah, if anyone, thanks for clearing that up, Jake. Tim, any last words before we wrap it up?
Thank you for offering.
You're welcome. All right, well, thanks, guys, for tuning in. I know it was a little bit of a rushed episode and clunky, but hey, fullbacks, there's not really much to go about there. I'm not going to keep selling bullshit when we're all pretty set on what we believe. Centre wings are coming up. We might have to do it in 2-part episodes because it's very hard to get the 4 of us in, but I think that'll be I think that's going to be 2 parts where we look at high end and then we look at mid-range cheapy end because there's a lot to look at the centre wings, and I think that's what's going to prove the difference in your starting side because there are a lot of these mid-range cheapies, but I think, everyone always goes low in the centre wing, but there's a lot of value in the centre wing, and I think there'll be a lot of surprises come TLT, so you're going to need 7 guys in that centre wing playing. You can't afford to, like people started with Suwali waiting for him to get a go. You got to take 7 that are going to play, so that'll be some interesting podcasts. I think there will be, we've got a lot of messages about cash comps. We're not going to run as heavy as we did last year. It's just on all of us. At this stage, we've got our 2 full. Just keep an eye on the page. I might run one and Jake might run one, but don't start hitting us up about it now, just because, we're not going to filter through and I don't want to miss anyone. So when it comes, it's just first in best dress. We don't want to run too many. So, there might be a few more. So just keep an eye out, but we're not 100% certain. Good luck with your teams. Have fun watching the game over the weekend. The Indigenous
it's always a good spectacle.
Should be good. Getting played here. And it's at CommBank too, I think, which is former Bank West. So, should be good. Watch a bit of footy and start getting these trials through. And as we always do, we'll do a little bit of a pod after each trial game. And, it'll be good because a lot more people will be able to watch them because they're on Fox Sports. So, and KO again. So, that should be really good. Thanks as always, Jake.
No worries.
And
great
Tim,
job of taking over. Where did Savs go? What happened there?
Emergency with baby duty, so we're going to have a lot of that this year, but that's the handy thing about having 4 guys. We can jump in and make it work. But thanks guys, and we will chat to you soon. See ya.
And we can't stop it because Sav's done it.
No, we can't stop it, so we're all just going to leave and he's going to have to sort it out.